strategy, but it actually makes people want to go after him.
You know what? Come and get me.
In the fiercest fight ever.
There's a Wolverine ready to bite their face off.
For $250,000.
Anything can happen.
Now, your primetime local news leader. Fox 22 News at 10.
Today, Maine House lawmakers narrowly passed a bill that aims to keep federal immigration enforcement officers out of private areas in public spaces and protect private records. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Jones. LD 2106 affects public schools, state post-secondary educational institutions, healthcare and childcare facilities, family childcare providers, and public libraries. It says anyone acting on behalf of these facilities cannot consent to allow immigration enforcement officers or officers supporting such operations to enter a non-public area of these public facilities. The bill also prohibits the officers from obtaining or even reviewing student, patient, or library records and requires the Attorney General to develop guidance for these facilities.
Even during the first Trump administration, we know that ICE did not go into hospitals or courtrooms or schools. There's no reason that this bill can't restore those protections. We need this bill to restore what we had before, to keep our economy safe, to keep our friends and neighbors safe, and to keep the state working.
We're effectively telling our public schools, our libraries, and our healthcare facilities that they should view federal law enforcement not as partners in public safety, but as entities to be managed, restricted, feared, and completely shut out.
Following lengthy testimony, ultimately the House voted to pass LD 2106 with a vote of 77 to 70. The bill now heads to the Senate. Well, roughly 24 hours ago, it was announced that the U.S. and Iran had reached a temporary ceasefire after weeks of conflict. Earlier today, Senator Susan Collins joined us in studio for an in-depth conversation about the ceasefire and other issues. Collins expressed relief over the newly reached ceasefire and also discussed her vote against the Senate measure concerning congressional approval for military action in Iran.
If the president commits boots on the ground, sends ground troops to Iran, I believe that congressional authorization for such action is completely required under the War Powers Act, or if the military hostilities last 60 days or more, again, I think that congressional approval is necessary, and I would not vote to approve troops on the ground nor an extension beyond 60 days unless there is a dramatic change.
Well, Senator Collins also discussed the impact of gas prices and the price of heating oil, saying she is a strong supporter of the Low-Income Heating Assistance Program. She said that the president's budget proposes to eliminate that program, but she said she will actually work to increase the funding instead. In other news, Elliot Cutler was back in court today asking that he be released on bail following 4 alleged probation violations. Cutler appeared virtually from jail. His attorney spoke about the alleged violations, saying they are non-criminal offenses and that Cutler has already served 60 days in jail. He asked that Cutler be released from jail and confined to his home. Restrictions pertaining to the internet and electronic devices would remain in place. However, prosecutors argued that Cutler has not adhered to his probation thus far, with alleged violations including seeking escort services, possessing unmonitored devices and pornography, and other alleged attempts to circumvent the terms of his probation. They asked that Cutler continue to be held without bail.
I can't find a bail that would be sufficient to guarantee that Mr. Cutler will not violate his bail while he's out again, and that I'm not satisfied for the motions to revoke pre-conviction, post-conviction bail, that there are any conditions that the court can set. So for those reasons, I'm denying the motion to amend bail or set bail.
It is unclear when Cutler will be back in court regarding the alleged violations. Maine State Police say a new scam is targeting individuals registered on the sex offender registry who are on probation in Maine. State Police say a letter is being mailed to individuals claiming there's been a data migration error in their records management system, and they need the person to email personal identifying information to an email address listed on the letter. State Police say neither the Maine Sex Offender Registry nor the Maine Department of Corrections would send a letter asking an individual to send sensitive information in this format. They say if you get a letter like this, report it to the Maine Sex Offender Registry at 207-624-7270 or call local law enforcement. In other news, the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife took time to recognize exceptional service among its ranks, including naming Game Warden Sergeant Chad Robertson as Game Warden of the Year. According to the department, Robertson is a 13-year veteran of the Maine Warden Service and patrols the greater Skowhegan area. They say Warden Robertson is consistently one of the busiest wardens in the state, producing strong cases on a variety of violations like night hunting, hunting big game in closed seasons, bag limit violations, illegal hunting by felons, and other issues. Robertson has also played a significant role in recruiting and training new game wardens and serves as a canine handler. He and his canine storm were deployed 24 times in 2025 and located 6 missing individuals. Congratulations to Warden Robertson on that recognition. Well, Ellsworth High School administrators are taking action after what they say was repeated vandalism to the school's boys' bathrooms. According to a Bangor Daily News report, boys' bathrooms have been closed off and on throughout this school year after one of the bathroom's interiors was, quote, trashed. Toilet paper dispensers were ripped down and toilets were clogged and overflowed due to too much paper. Male students were told to use single occupancy bathrooms that are open to anyone. No students have been disciplined as of yet. Well, a Down East community is considering whether to overturn a nearly century-old ban put in place for conservation and public safety. As our Alex Schley tells us, while there is broad agreement that the deer population needs to be addressed, there are also real concerns about what changing that policy could mean for public safety.
On May 11th, Tremont voters will decide whether to allow limited deer hunting by residents and property owners.
Well, the deer population is very large.
Hunting has been prohibited anywhere on Mount Desert Island since the 1930s.
You can see anywhere between 20 to 100 in an evening drive between Southwest and Tremont.
As both the human and deer population in Tremont have grown, officials say so have the number of incidents.
Very common to have deer vehicle crashes. They are constantly causing nuisances with people's gardens and landscaping.
State wildlife officials say this is not the first time deer numbers have become a concern for Mount Desert Island communities.
Really every 5 or 10 years with some town on MDI where they talk about different deer removal options, and those planning things, they get to various stages, but they usually fall short.
Town officials say that at the request of residents, any approved hunting would be strictly regulated.
Archery and shotgun only. You have to be a Tremont resident or a property owner in Tremont to do it. You'll have to come here to the town office to verify that information and get a permit. It is required to be from a fixed blind or a tree stand, so there's no walking through the woods looking for a deer.
Hunters would also need landowners' permission, and property owners would be required to disclose where stands are located. If passed, the ordinance would allow hunting each November for 3 years, before going back to the Select Board for review. In Tremont, Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Alrighty, folks, well, let's pause now and take a first look at our forecast.
All right, Beth, thank you. Let's start here. High temperatures today, 43 here in Bangor and Millinocket. That's not normal. The average high is near 50. We're going to work on that, though, as warmer air is on the way, beginning as soon as tomorrow. Out there today, though, plenty of sunshine all day long. A gorgeous day, sunshine-wise, but a bit cool this time of the year when the average high is near 50 this time of the year. All right, to the west of us, this looks like we're in trouble, but we're not quite yet. This will give us a couple of sprinkles on Friday and a Saturday. Other than that, though, we're likely dry dry for a day or two, at least around here. Overall, clear skies for us tonight. Then a couple of clouds around tomorrow, not a big deal at all. And then finally for Friday, maybe a couple of sprinkles in the area. Nothing really big in here probably until Monday or Tuesday of next week. So our forecast time for tonight, though, is mostly clear skies with low temperatures in the 20s. Your full forecast is coming up.
Thank you, Jeff, and we have more of your local news just ahead.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Your call is important to us.
You've heard this before, too many times. Tired of being customer 45978? Yeah, we would be too. Speed means fast uploads, no lag, and zero buffering. But it also means calling you back, showing up on time, and treating you like a person, not a problem. So whether you're working, streaming, gaming, or all three, it is time to make the switch to a provider that actually tries. Go NetSpeed. Service isn't dead. It just moved local.
When I was 29, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I think part of research and advocating for more money for cancer research allows survivors to have more time. Senator Collins supports and advocates for more funding for cancer research so that people can have better treatments, they can have better outcomes, and therefore they can live better lives as cancer survivors. Thank you, Senator Collins. Continue fighting for our families.
Is that a compression nut?
Oh!
We got a duct taper.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Welcome back. A Mid-Coast Maine boatyard is getting a major boost from the state aimed at expanding advanced marine technology while preserving traditional craftsmanship. Our Alexa Kennedy tells us more.
Brooklyn Boatyard was awarded a $1.5 million zero-interest loan through the Maine Technology Institute. The funding will support construction of a new service building complete with an advanced composites room and expanded machine shop. Since 1960, the business has specialized in custom boat building, which has grown to blend traditional wooden craftsmanship with modern technology. Chief Operating Officer Nick Carter says the timing aligned well with increasing customer demand.
Just in the last 5 years, we've seen really substantial growth. It's been a good market for boats. We're applying new techniques all the time, and as the technology advances, we're really incorporating that into our boats.
The state's investment is part of a broader push to drive growth in Maine's innovation economy. At Brooklyn Boatyard, that means blending technology with tradition.
We've always stayed much more grounded in kind of old school craftsmanship than most any other place has. But we still have to embrace all the modern technology in order to stay up to date and stay competitive in a modern boat building environment.
The Brooklyn Boatyard team says the technology will be used to aid employees rather than replace them.
We're replacing kind of the lower skilled, less fun parts that don't necessarily teach boat building. They're not part of our track that gets people to be skilled craftsmen.
Brooklyn Boatyard President Brian Larkin says the upgrades will also improve working spaces for employees and eventually create new job opportunities. In Brooklyn, Alexa Kennedy, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News. The Hudson University campus was bursting with school spirit for the 8th annual Giving Day and 1st annual Spirit Day. Giving Day is a 24-hour fundraising campaign that supports clubs, sports, and academics. A staple of the event is the Cash Cab, a decked-out security card inspired by the Cash Cab television show. Students donate at least $5 for a chance to ride in the cart answering Hudson-themed trivia questions. However, 3 wrong answers and you are immediately booted right out of the cart. Organizers hope to show how much fun it can be to just give back.
What we're trying to do is bring the entire Hassan community together to spread the message that it doesn't matter how much you give, it's the fact that you give that really makes a big impact.
Today also marked the first annual Hassan Spirit Day. Students, faculty, and alumni were encouraged to wear green and gold attire. Hassan University's president says the hope is to further elevate their sense of community.
Gives lots of visibility for how much enthusiasm and commitment to the Hassan mission that we have here on our campus, and it also allows our alumni to be connected, whether they have their Hassan sweatshirts or a mug through social media. They can still be committed and connected regardless of their location across the country or throughout the world.
Well, coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22, we'll have your national headlines.
At Old Town Redemption Center, we are always ready to help with any fundraisers or bottle drives. We are here to help our community. Like and follow us on Facebook for upcoming weekly holiday giveaways and our monthly $100 drawing.
People ask me all the time, does Lowry & Associates really get all of those clients, all of those big settlements? Yes, we do. And you know what else is true? I really am standing on top of this big truck.
With over 30 years of experience, Patriot General Contractors knows how to get your home renovation project done right. Our certified contractors can help you build, redesign, or finish the project of your dreams. Check out Facebook page for reviews and visit patriotgeneralcontractors.com to schedule your quote today. Patriot General Contractors, redesigning your properties for the future.
It's all fun, all hybrid, and all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive Toyota Camry Hybrid, a well-appointed, stylish hybrid that's all about comfort and all about exceptional driving range. And with special 3.99% financing for 72 months, all about great value. The all-fun, all-wheel drive Camry Hybrid, an all-around great choice. See your New England Toyota dealer, your hybrid all-wheel drive headquarters. Toyota, let's go places.
Playing it safe won't propel Maine forward. Conservative Jonathan Bush agrees. A new kind of Bush. He believes Maine needs to diversify our economy, cut property and income taxes. Conservative, Republican, disruptor, Jonathan.
At Old Town Redemption Center, we are always ready to help with any fundraisers or bottle drives. We are here to help our community. Like and follow us on Facebook for upcoming weekly holiday giveaways and our monthly $100 drawing.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth says troops will remain in the region to make sure Iran lives up to its end of the ceasefire deal. The Pentagon is adding up the numbers related to the U.S. action in the Islamic Republic. Fox's chief national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin has details.
What has been agreed to, what's been stated, is the strait is open.
Just hours after agreeing to a 2-week ceasefire and allowing at least 4 ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's state media reported it would block the strait as long as Israel continues attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon. It also wants a toll, $1 per barrel, passing through the strait. A typical oil tanker carries 2 million barrels. The White House says President Trump was told privately the strait is open. At a Pentagon briefing, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs outlined what Operation Epic Fury destroyed after the U.S. military hit 13,000 targets in 38 days.
CENTCOM forces destroyed approximately 80% of Iran's air defense systems, striking more than 1,500 air defense targets, more than 450 ballistic missile storage facilities, 800 one-way attack drones storage facilities. All of these systems are gone.
What General Kane did not mention were the percent of American weapons stockpiles emptied and costly U.S. warplanes lost. 3 F-15Es shot down in a friendly fire incident in Kuwait, a 4th shot down in Iran. 1 A-10, over 16 MQ-9 Reaper drones, 2 MC-130J transport planes, and 4 light special operations helicopters, totaling more than $900 million in losses.
I've laid out the statistics, but it does not truly capture the nature of combat. This is gritty and unforgiving business.
CENTCOM says 50,000 U.S. service members, 16 warships, and a dozen air squadrons are staying.
A ceasefire's a pause, and the joint force remains ready if ordered or called upon to resume combat operations.
The U.S. military carried out a closing salvo of 800 airstrikes last night in Iran. At the end of 38 days of bombing, Iran still has 900 pounds of highly enriched weapons-grade uranium. Says it preserves the right to enrichment, has enough drones and missiles to threaten to close the strait, and despite a large number of strikes on Iran's leaders, the regime and the IRGC remain. In Washington, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
Well, as Iran launched several missiles at Israel after the ceasefire was announced. In response, Israel carried out major strikes on several areas in central Beirut. Fox's Jonathan Hunt is in Tel Aviv, Israel, with the latest.
Israel's fight against Hezbollah in Lebanon is suddenly threatening to blow up the entire ceasefire agreement before the ink is even dry. After Pakistani mediators announced that Lebanon is included in the ceasefire, Israel announced it is not and promptly launched one of its most extensive attacks of the entire war.
We delivered the biggest blow to Hezbollah since the Pages. We attacked 100 targets in 10 minutes in location Hezbollah was sure were invulnerable.
Iran insists if a cessation of Israeli attacks on Lebanon is not included in the agreement, then there is no agreement. It says it has again closed the Strait of Hormuz as a result. Iran's foreign minister writing on X today, quote, "The world sees the massacres in Lebanon, the ball is in the US court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitments." Even before that, Iran continued to strike its Gulf neighbors using missiles and drones, hitting the UAE, Qatar and Kuwait, where energy infrastructure was struck. And Iranian news agencies reporting potential attacks in a number of cities, including Isfahan, site of one of Iran's major nuclear plants. So while a ceasefire exists in theory, the fire has certainly not ceased. President Trump has described the ongoing Israeli action in Lebanon as a, quote, separate skirmish. But it is a skirmish that appears tonight to potentially have the ability to plunge all sides back into a fully fledged war. In Tel Aviv, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
Rex Hoyerman, a suspected serial killer linked to multiple bodies found near Gilgo Beach on Long Island, confessed to the killings today. Fox's Brian Yennis has more on the case as families of the victims accepted the plea.
I am glad that this is over as far as him pleading guilty. It took a big chunk of stress off of me and my family.
Closure for families of the victims of a string of murders on Long Island from 1993 to 2010 after Rex Hoyerman, a 62-year-old architect, pleaded guilty to murdering 7 women and confessing to an additional murder.
After discussions with your lawyer, you feel it's in your best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial? Yes, Your Honor.
Hoyerman's plea on Wednesday in front of a packed courthouse, including his ex-wife and daughter in eastern Long Island, closed a case which once stumped investigators for years after multiple bodies were found starting in 2010 along an isolated highway near Gilgo Beach during a search for a missing woman. While Hoyerman initially pled not guilty after his DNA was found on the remains of one of the victims in 2023, his attorney says Hoyerman ultimately decided to take responsibility for the murders.
He controls his case, and that's his prerogative, that's his right, and that's what happened here today.
Along with pleading guilty to the 7 known murders, Hoyerman also admitted to an 8th killing, which took place in 1996. His attorney says the change in plea includes cooperation with authorities on the remainder of the case.
There will be no further prosecutions in regards to these 8 victims.
Rex Hoyerman's sentencing is set for June 17th. He faces multiple consecutive life sentences without parole. In Riverhead, New York, Brian Yennis, Fox News.
Switching gears now, NASA getting ready for the Artemis II crew to return home in just 2 days after a historical journey around the moon. Fox's Caroline Elliott has the story.
We're currently at a mission elapsed time of 7 days and 6 minutes.
After a week in space, NASA's Artemis II crew is getting ready to return back to Earth.
We're glad that we can remind people that we can do better as a human race by lifting one another up and collaborating.
The Orion spacecraft has performed flawlessly so far, and now the spaceship will fly back home using the Earth's gravitational pull.
And when the mission goes well, it can look like flying to the moon is easy. It certainly is not.
The astronauts, now famous around the world, are reflecting on the life-changing mission. For mission specialist Christina Cook, her favorite part of the entire journey was seeing the bigger picture.
I found myself noticing not only the beauty of the Earth, but how much blackness there was around it, and how it just made it even more special. It truly emphasized how alike we are, how the same thing keeps every single person on planet Earth alive.
NASA is planning for a Friday splashdown in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego. Orion will hit a maximum speed of nearly 24,000 miles per hour as it re-enters the atmosphere.
We're expecting 3.9 Gs. But we have a number of contingency trajectories which would land us further uprange or further away from our targeted landing site. You could see G loads as high as 7 or 7.5 Gs.
And the work does not stop there. After splashdown, NASA will continue planning the next Artemis missions with eyes on putting boots on the moon in 2028. At New York, Caroline Elliott, Fox News.
Still to come on Fox 22 News at 10. In sports, the Herman softball team is looking to make another run at states this spring. We'll be right back.
It's the new season of Next Level Shaft, and the competition is more chaotic than ever.
That's crazy.
Next Level Shaft, all new Thursdays on Fox.
Dreaming of a new garage or custom build? Patriot Landscaping and Construction delivers from frame to finish. Expert craftsmanship, durable designs, and quality you can trust, we get it done right. Call Patriot Landscaping and Construction today. Let's build your future together.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
More rain is expected today,
so roads could get slippery.
When conditions get more severe, you can feel safe driving any one of Toyota's 23 all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive models, which is more than Honda, Subaru, or Jeep. Like the style-to-be-wild turbocharged Tacoma with a ruggedly refined interior and advanced technology. Toyota gives you more all-wheel drive choices, giving you more reason to see your New England Toyota dealer. Your all-wheel drive headquarters. Toyota, let's go places.
It's back, Bangor. The Greater Bangor Area Music Showcase returns with the fan favorite music off-Broadway. Join Roger George and his talented musicians for an unforgettable show, all to support Rotary's work in our local community. Saturday, April 11th at 7 p.m. and Sunday, April 12th at 3 p.m. Getting your tickets is easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen. Bring your friends, bring your family, and enjoy a show that makes a difference. Don't miss it.
Dreaming of a new garage or custom build? Patriot Landscaping and Construction delivers from frame to finish. Expert craftsmanship, durable designs, and quality you can trust, we get it done right. Call Patriot Landscaping and Construction today. Let's build your future together.
Continuing with national news now, the woman known as the Ketamine Queen in Los Angeles landed a prison sentence for her role in the death of actor Matthew Perry. Fox's Anna Eliopoulos has more on the sentence and how it stacks up to other people who have pleaded guilty in that case.
A federal judge in Los Angeles on Wednesday handed out the harshest sentence so far in the case of actor Matthew Perry's overdose death in 2023. Jasveen Senga, who prosecutors dubbed as the Ketamine Queen for her alleged operation of dealing the drug used as surgical anesthetic to high-profile clients, was sentenced to 15 years in prison for selling the drug linked to Perry's death and her broader role in the drug dealing business.
My first reaction is I'm bitterly disappointed.
Senga's attorney voiced his displeasure with the verdict, saying it far exceeds the punishment handed out to the doctors who bought and administered the lethal dose to Perry.
There's no way that Jasveen is 5 times more culpable than the person who injected Matthew Perry with the drug or the doctor who got the drug. To me, it's absurd in the literal meaning of the word.
Perry's family was also at the court for the sentencing, including his mom, Suzanne Morrison, and his stepfather, journalist Keith Morrison.
You have to have a heart of stone to wake up every morning and make a business out of feeding off the addictions of vulnerable people who are desperate for drugs.
Morrison says he believes Senga has taken accountability for her actions, and he agrees with the length of the sentencing.
I think she'll do fine in prison.
Senga was the third of 5 people who pled guilty in connection to Perry's death. The remaining 2 people are expected to receive shorter sentences. Anna Eliopoulos, Fox News.
The husband of a missing woman in the Bahamas is breaking his silence, saying he's heartbroken over the situation. However, the woman's daughter says she's suspicious. Fox's Dana Marie McNichol has that story.
The search for missing Michigan woman Lynette Hooker in the Bahamas continues. According to police, her husband Brian Hooker says she fell off their dinghy Friday night with the keys to the engine, which disabled the boat. He claims she was swept away by the current and he was left to paddle to shore. He landed on a nearby island and didn't report the incident to local police until around 4 a.m. the following morning. Lynette's daughter says something about her stepdad's story just doesn't add up.
My mom is very fit and strong. She's a good swimmer. This story just does not make sense to me. Like, there's also been history of domestic violence in that relationship, so I do believe something might have happened to her.
Lynette's daughter explained some prior issues.
There's history of him choking her out and threatening to throw her overboard, so the fact that this is actually happening makes me believe there's more to the story.
Legal experts are weighing in on the case.
Certainly some of the facts raise eyebrows. One of the things that stood out to me was the time delay before she was reported missing. I understand that they were several miles off the coast and he had to paddle back because the boat was unpowered at that point. But still, there seems to be a large amount of time that's unaccounted for there.
U.S. investigators are working with local authorities on the investigation.
If ultimately this does become a criminal investigation, there is an opportunity for a U.S. prosecution here because it does involve U.S. citizens.
In Miami, I'm Dana Marie McNichol, Fox News.
The global aviation sector has been dealing with higher fuel prices after tensions in the Middle East disrupted the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil shipping corridor. Now, 4 major carriers are passing the costs on to the consumer. Delta and Southwest are the latest airlines to raise fees for checked baggage, joining recent moves by United and JetBlue. Fox's Lauren Simonetti has more.
Air travel is about to get more expensive. Delta and Southwest are hiking baggage fees, up by $10 on new bookings. The first checked bag will now cost $45, the second $55, and a third bag, an even bigger hit, jumping to $200. The price hike comes as airlines grapple with surging jet fuel costs driven by tensions in the Middle East. Delta's CEO has been warning about this.
We don't have a crystal ball that's any better than anyone else's, but we anticipate it's going to stay higher for longer over these next number of months.
Fuel typically makes up about a quarter of airline operating costs, and because tickets are sold months in advance, when fuel costs spike fast, profits get squeezed.
When it's normal, 20 to 25% of an airline's costs are fuel, labor 30.
Right.
That could flip. You can end up being 35% of your cost being fuel alone.
Unlike some of its rivals, Delta has a buffer. It has a subsidiary-owned refinery in Pennsylvania.
It doesn't isolate us entirely. What it does is it absorbs a good bit of the hit. We anticipate that there will be substantial benefits coming.
Still, the airline is bracing for impact. Delta beat expectations in the first quarter, but is now warning profits could slide in the second. And to stay ahead, it may start cutting some flights.
Getting ahead of this and reducing those flights, the red eyes and some of the flights that probably don't have the same level of revenue capability.
Delta says perks like free bags through loyalty programs, premium tickets, and airline credit cards aren't going anywhere. In New York, Lauren Simonetti, Fox News.
Well, one major U.S. airline is raising one of its prices. Fox Business Network's David Asman has a look at that story and more in today's Fox Means Business.
Markets rallying big time for your Wednesday. All three major indices skyrocketed to the best day they've had in a year after the U.S. has agreed to a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Well, Anthropic is rolling out a new AI model to tackle cyber attacks. The new model, called Claude Mythos Preview, is going to roll out to a select group of companies as part of the startup's new cybersecurity initiative called Project Glasswing. Anthropic says this model excels at identifying weaknesses and security flaws within software systems. The cost of jet fuel has forced Delta Airlines to, quote, meaningfully reduce its growth plans in the near term. The airline says soaring fuel prices because of the Iran war have added an extra $2 billion to its costs this quarter. Delta has also joined United and JetBlue in raising its checked bag fees this week to offset the surge in jet fuel prices. And FedEx Freight is expected to report an operating margin of 12% this year. CEO John Smith telling investors that this is based on an expected revenue of $8.7 billion and an adjusted operating income of $1.1 billion. FedEx Freight is a spin-off from FedEx Corp and is scheduled to start trading on the New York Stock Exchange on June 1st of this year. That's business. I'm David Asman.
And just ahead, we have your full 5-day forecast. Stay with us.
Well, the sunshine felt great today, but it was a bit cool. But hold on, warmer temperatures are on the way. Also on the way could be some rain. Details for you when I come back.
We're lucky to live in Maine. We have a wealth of natural resources, hardworking people, and time for the things that matter. Mechanical Services is all about Maine, with energy efficiency that protects our environment and helps businesses grow. Preventive maintenance and energy solutions that save money. How Maine is that? Mechanical Services. We're everywhere you are in Maine.
Hey! That ought to do it.
Who hurt you?
Got old metal and junk cars? Turn that clutter into cash at Daddy and Daughters. We make recycling easy, fast, and fair. From Skowhegan to Dover Foxcroft, from Troy to Lee, you can trust our certified scales and friendly service, offering top prices for junk vehicles in Maine. Whether you drop off or we pick up, Daddy and Daughters covers central and eastern Maine. Come see us at one of our 4 locations and watch your scrap pay off. Daddy and Daughters, turn scrap into cash.
Bangor, ready to get rugged? Join the community April 20th for the massive grand opening of Rugged Roots Trading Post, Stillwater Avenue, Bangor. Meet the crew. Explore a wide selection of premium Maine-grown products. Doors open 9 a.m. Cut rate prices you won't believe. Can't wait till 4/20? They're open now. Or visit ruggedrootstradingpost.com. For use only by adults 21 years of age and older. License number AMS 1775.
Fox UFL Friday. The Orlando Storm. Touchdown! The Louisville Kings. What a play! Friday at 8 Eastern on Fox.
All right, Rogan's Memorials give the gift of comfort through thoughtful planning with locations in Bangor, Bucksport, and Lincoln. We're talking weather out there for us today. And again, sunshine felt great today, but temperature is a bit cool for this time of the year. We should be near 50, not so much today, 43 here in Bangor and Millinocket. Tomorrow will be a bit warmer, followed by a lot warmer, basically on Friday into Saturday and Sunday. All right, the wind out there is finally dying down. It got a little gusty for a while today. We had a few wind gusts near 25 miles per hour. This will go calm for a few hours tonight, meaning there could be a few pockets of dense fog in there tonight that will burn off quickly around sunrise tomorrow morning. The waves out there now, not much at all, 2 feet or so directly offshore, building edge about the sea. So again, there's nothing hanging out here currently. No advisories yet, but likely being ousted tomorrow. We could see a small craft advisory for wave heights approaching 2 to 8 feet directly offshore tomorrow night into Friday. So going forward, so plenty of sunshine back in the forecast for tomorrow. We could hit 60 on Friday afternoon, but some light rain showers in the forecast Friday as well. Most likely sprinkles, no big deal at all. The heavier rain likely getting in here probably Monday into Tuesday of next week. Out there today, gorgeous sunshine pretty much all day long. We loved it, right? But to the west of us, there's a system over here. Impressive on satellite. There it is, right? But this is not really going to mess with us for a few days. Maybe a couple sprinkles in the area on Friday. Other than that, though, we are dry tomorrow into Friday afternoon before we get a little bit of rain on Friday evening. Let's walk you through this, right? So tonight, clear skies, light winds, lows in the 20s. Tomorrow, looking at a very nice day, but really on Friday morning, increasing clouds. And again, a couple of sprinkles in the area, especially into Friday evening. Then we'll get a break in the action Saturday and through most of Sunday, followed by another system getting here, most likely Monday into Tuesday of next week. So again, I'm going to run this through Saturday morning or so. Not a lot of rain Friday at all. But if you go through really Saturday through Monday into Tuesday, this next one coming in could easily give us an inch or so of rainfall later on Monday into Tuesday. Our forecast then for tonight, though, is lots of clear skies, lows down near 24, a gorgeous night out there with a calm wind out there already right now. For tomorrow, another nice day, lots of sunshine tomorrow. There could be a few clouds throughout the afternoon with high temperatures reaching for 50. We'll probably do it, but turning a bit windy in there as well. That south wind could gust near 30 throughout the afternoon. Now looking ahead, your 5-day forecast shows our story, right? So 50 tomorrow, some sunshine, some clouds in the afternoon. Friday, increasing clouds, maybe a sprinkle late Friday. It's going to be tough to get that. And a couple of light rain showers early Saturday morning. Again, most of Saturday looking pretty good. And then here we are Sunday, highs near 60 once again. And then Sunday night, increasing clouds. And Monday and Tuesday look wet to me with high temperatures near 60.
Jeff, thank you. Folks, don't go anywhere. We have sports next.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Fires, floods, burst pipes. Disasters happen, but the mess they leave behind doesn't have to last. For 40 years, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration has been there to help Mainers get back to the closest to normal as they can. When your property is at its worst, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration is at their best, and they have been for 4 decades. Put your trust in the Bouchard team. Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration. You keep the memories, we'll handle the rest.
Keep your feet on the ground, they said. So many people have told you you can't. They say you don't listen. So you don't listen to them. You rise to your moment. It feels like every idea is crystal clear. It feels like every line, every angle is perfect. It feels like you are at the top of your game. And with Fidium Fiber Internet, you are.
It feels like Fidium.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
We're ready for baseball, and off we go.
Major League Baseball, all season long on Fox.
Welcome back in, folks. Spring season is almost underway, and the Herman Hawks are preparing to make another run at the Class B state title. Our Max Sturm has the story.
To make it to the state title game once is an accomplishment in itself. To make it 2 times in a row is a whole other challenge. But that is exactly what the Herman Hawks softball team is seeking out in 2026. That goal starts with preseason practices, where the Hawks must work to become a cohesive unit on the field and build trust.
We all work pretty hard off the offseason, so we come in kind of like that much further ahead in the year. So now we're just working on like how to work together.
I'm fortunate that a lot of our kids play year-round, and so we really highlight the fundamentals. That gives us the ability when we come out here to kind of work on the mental side of the game and work on the strategy of the game.
The Hawks are without their large senior core from last year. And the two seniors on this year's squad say leadership will need to be an attribute displayed by every player.
We're a very small group, so the more we speak out, the better we're going to be, I think, and we lead as an example.
We always say to be a leader, you have to be the hardest working, so we find that everyone who's like working hard or going out of their way wants to be a leader, and we're all kind of leaders here. We don't have like people who like captains necessarily.
A championship-level team requires championship-level culture, a crucial piece of the puzzle the Hawks have zero doubts about when it pertains to their team.
We harp on this all the time. We always talk about the fact that, you know, talent can win games, but it's a team that wins championships.
You know the person behind you has your back, and if you make a mistake, like you know your teammate's going to pick you up. Nobody's going to be upset, and you're going to be able to get the next one.
Maintaining that mentality through the entirety of the season is the key the Herman Hawks say will finally get them over the hump.
It's just bringing everyone together and having that culture, because I think last year we got down on each other a little bit when we had that 1-0 run.
I think it's going to be the culture, because we know we're a talented group. We just have to know that we can truly trust each other.
They're motivated, they've been there, and it's just a matter right now of going out every day and staying focused and locked in and improving every day.
I definitely know that we can do it, and I have full confidence in my team.
From Herman, Max Sturm, ABC 7 and Fox 22 Sports.
Thank you for that, Max. Good luck to those Hawks. Well, hockey fans, the Boston Bruins have a 99% chance to make the playoffs with just 3 games remaining, and the Bees just added some firepower for that push. Boston signed 2025 7th overall pick James Higgins to his entry-level contract. The Boston College Eagle signed an AHL deal with Providence back in March to begin his pro career, but many assume this call-up was coming before season's end. Higgins led the Hockey East in scoring this past season, recording 23 goals and 24 assists. Bruins fans hoping the 5'11", 193-pound forward can have an impact as the Bees make a run at the postseason. He'll wear number 44 with the Bruins, a number worn by Dennis Seidenberg, and will make his debut at the Garden on Saturday afternoon against the Lightning. That is great news. Following their 3rd win of the season on Tuesday night, the Red Sox had a quick turnaround and we're back at it on Wednesday at 1:35, looking for a series win. Sonny Gray on the bump for the Sox, and he had himself a day. Here he is in the 3rd, 2 in scoring position, and he fans the batter to get out of the inning. Next frame now, Wilson Contreras up with the bases loaded. He draws the walk, 1-0 Sox. That's one way to open the scoring right there. Then it's Wilyer Abreu's turn. Same inning, he drives one hard at former Red Sox David Hamilton. It takes a wild hop to the shortstop who fires it to first, but Abreu gets there safe with an RBI single. Top of the 7th now. Gray still on the bump, but after this out, his day would be done. 6 1/3 innings, no earned runs, and 2 strikeouts, exactly what the Red Sox needed from a starter. Then in the bottom of the frame, Story's bat is heating up. He pokes a single out to left center, which scores a run as the Sox take the series against the now 8-4 Brewers with this 5-0 win. Well, Cooper Flagg is making a late push for Rookie of the Year. His campaign continued on Tuesday night in Los Angeles. Flagg received a pass, drove down the lane, and put longtime veteran Brooke Lopez on a poster. I mean, what a slam from Flagg. He's been doing that to people all year long. Lopez, his latest victim. Flagg scored 25 points to go along with 9 rebounds in the Mavericks' loss to the Clippers. Flagg's currently a -290 favorite to win NBA Rookie of the Year with just 3 games remaining this season. Finally, golf fans, get your picks in because the Masters tournament starts Thursday morning. Round 1 coverage begins Thursday morning on ESPN+, Masters.com, and the Masters app. Main coverage begins on Amazon Prime from 1 to 3, then ESPN from 3 to 7:30. Same deal for round 2 on Friday with morning coverage on those outlets and the main broadcast at 3 on ESPN. On Saturday, it switches over to CBS. Same thing on Sunday with final round coverage on CBS from 2 to 7. Hard to pick him this year. I hope Justin Rose finally gets his due. For now, that's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Need a driveway paved or an entire road surfaced? Give Eaton Paving and Excavation a call. Eaton Paving offers a full line of excavation packages, from new home projects to new and replacement septics and driveways. We also install new shoreland and do shoreland repairs. Our operators have more than 75 years combined experience, and we have been delivering quality, professional service for nearly 3 decades. We strive to exceed your expectations. Give us a call today at 207-348-5630 or visit us at EatonPaving.com.
More rain is expected today, so roads could get slippery.
When conditions get more severe, you can feel safe driving any one of Toyota's 23 all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive models, which is more than Honda, Subaru, or Jeep. Like the style-to-be-wild turbocharged Tacoma with a ruggedly refined interior and advanced technology. Toyota gives you more all-wheel drive choices, giving you more reason to see your New England Toyota dealer. Your all-wheel drive headquarters. Toyota, let's go places.
Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center is your destination for all things green, and yellow, and pink, and red, and, well, you'll understand when you visit us. Plants aren't just another department here. They're our whole world. From gardening classes to our expansive greenhouses, we cultivate a community of budding and seasoned gardeners alike. Professional landscapers turn to us too. Shouldn't you? Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center, growing with you since 1947.
5 signs that text, email, or call is a scam. Number 1, you weren't expecting it. Number 2, it says there's a prize or a problem. Number 3, they want personal information. Number 4, they pressure you to act quickly. Number 5, they ask you to pay a specific way. There will always be scammers, but you don't have to be their victim. Brought to you by this station, the Maine Association of Broadcasters, and the Office of the Secretary of State.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
I shall now train you in the art of the net gun.
Gotcha.
All new Animal Control, Thursdays on Fox.
Artificial intelligence has a growing part in our lives, even in learning about humanity's past. Researchers at one university are using AI to help them virtually unroll ancient scrolls. Fox's Jeremy Toms explains.
It's a complete game changer for what papyrology can do.
UVU senior Orpheus Isom never foresaw herself delving into the world of ancient papyrus scrolls.
For a while I wanted to be a political science major, and then I wanted to be an illustrator, but then I took a class on ancient Greek philosophy with Michael Shaw.
That led her on a study abroad trip to Italy, where she learned about the neighboring civilizations of Pompeii and Herculaneum.
That's where we first encountered the Herculaneum papyri,
which made the trip back here to Utah.
These 4 scrolls have never been on display in the United States.
2,000-year-old scrolls sit behind glass at a UVU conference called the Buried Library this week.
The Herculaneum collection is the only existing library that we have from antiquity.
Scholars from around the world are gathering as researchers from the University of Kentucky show how they've pioneered the art of virtually unrolling those scrolls with AI.
We started thinking we didn't want things to be left behind in the digital age.
Professor Brent Seals soon realized in some cases it's about being able to see anything at all.
The Herculaneum scrolls are fairly unique. They're basically pure charcoal. But in another sense, that is exactly what preserves them.
Because the pages are so brittle, they've come up with a way to non-invasively recover the text.
The basic idea is that we CT scan them, which shows the internal structure of the scrolls.
They then put that data into custom software to unfold the wraps of the scrolls and see its texts, what they've seen so far.
The recent discovery was an extended passage on Epicureanism, and in particular, a discussion of scarcity and abundance.
Is just one segment of a massive library that includes 300 closed scrolls.
There's going to be more material in this library about what we didn't know about the ancient world. We're standing on the edge of a future that we can hardly even imagine.
A future that leaves Isom and her fellow students excited for what lies ahead for them in this field. In Orem, Jeremy Tom, Fox News, Utah.
Well, summer is about to become the most expensive time to travel, and it's not just higher baggage fees, it's fares too. New data by flight analytics company Going found that domestic flights are up about 19% more compared to last year, with round trip ranging from $412 to $489. Researchers say rock bottom fares are also up by nearly 23%, and things are only slightly better for international travel. Analysts say trips are up only about 3% year over year, with the average median round trip price surging from $1,115 to $1,138. Meanwhile, tickets for the 2028 LA Olympics are on sale, and while the race is on to grab tickets, the sky-high prices could cause some fans to be priced out. Brandon McKnight and his family are planning to see the games, but tickets are not cheap. Their hearts were set on gymnastics at Crypto Arena and swimming at SoFi Stadium, but they settled for archery and track and field preliminaries.
Swimming was $1,200.
Oh my gosh.
Gymnastics was $800, depending on what you wanted to get. Most of them were actually sold out. I couldn't even see a price.
The LA 28 team says tens of thousands of $28 tickets still exist, mostly for preliminary events. More than a quarter of tickets available are under $200, with more inventory expected to drop soon. Well, school nutrition teams from across the state have been competing in the annual Farm to School Cook-Off. Today, the competition came to a conclusion, with one team being crowned the Cook-Off champion. Our Grace Blanchard has the story.
Competitors in Maine's annual Farm to School Cook-Off faced off in a final battle at Bangor High School on Wednesday.
The team that wins today will receive a plaque, a Farm to School Champion Award.
Teams representing MSAD 1, MSAD 52, and RSU 22 have been competing in regional competitions as part of the Maine Department of Education's 11th annual competition that aims to highlight school nutrition programs.
We really want to promote all the great work that's happening in school nutrition programs across Maine. We really are a leader in the country and the Northeast when it comes to local foods and school meals.
Teams must prepare breakfast and lunch meals all within a set time frame, using at least one USDA food and 3 local ingredients.
We're all bringing different ideas and kind of collaborating, and yes, we're all competing, but it's a really good thing to be able to see what the other people are doing.
Local foods play an essential role in school nutrition efforts.
We're using local ingredients and then therefore supporting the farmers who can then continue to create these local ingredients, and it's a rising tide that lifts all ships. Our kids get to eat great local produce, and then our farmers are also able to survive. So
the judges ultimately crowned Team Nourish Kids of RSU 22 as the cook-off champions. All recipes presented during the cook-off will now be compiled into a cookbook for other school nutrition teams to use in lunchrooms statewide.
This is a way that we can kind of push this towards them, and then and at least in one small way we can make sure they're getting a good nutritious meal.
In Bangor, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And that is going to do it for us, folks. From everyone here at Fox 22 News, take care and have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.
For more local news coverage, switch over to our sister station, ABC 7, right now for ABC 7 News at 11.
Car accidents can be...
Next time, things get heated in the tank.
We've created a cult following online. What's happening?
I like it. I'm staying.
David, don't do it in front of the sharks. That is borderline disrespectful.
Can I share
this
with
is
you?
not, hold on.
We're ready to save homes and lives. I'll give you the $1 million.
And a rare shark alliance is about to go up in smoke.
I want 15%. 15% divided?
Yeah, split
I would
7.5
rather have
each.
20%.
Let me do the numbers. I'll handle the numbers.
You're so arrogant, you don't listen.
Oh, boy. I'm a little worried you're going to instantaneously combust.
Hacks Gene Smart and the boys Anthony Starr on a new Jimmy Kimmel Live.
This is ABC 7 News at 11.
Today.